What's going on, YouTube? I'm your host, Sook, and here we're going to be talking about whether or not it's worth it for you and your group to go to Las Vegas here in the early spring. Along the way, I'm also going to talk about one of my favorite places to go, or actually a lot of my favorite places to go. But we'll also talk about the cost that's associated with the trip and how it changes from early spring to summer. Check it out. All right, first things first, stepping off the plane in Vegas. Once you step off the plane in Vegas, it's gonna feel a little nippy. I would really recommend for you and your entire group, especially for spring break, to bring and pack light to heavy sweaters. It's gonna be a little cold. The whole time that we were there, we were kind of laughing, saying, hey, how many pools can we hit up in the day? But the reality is there was only one that we went to, which was the Marquee. And I'll talk about that a little bit later in the video, but definitely pack warm for this trip for the early spring. All right, now that you're out of the airport, let's talk about the setup for getting a taxi or an Uber. My recommendation getting out of the airport is to either take Lyft or Uber. However, in Las Vegas, it seems like the taxis are heavily incentivized to take tourists from the airport to the Strip because it's convenient. It's right outside of the airport, and so you don't have to make a long walk through the crossway and into the parking garage and then down a floor to get to your Lyft or Uber. Outside of that, unless you're a really heavy Lyft or Uber user, I would say really stick to taking the taxi. There's actually a fare posted right onto the taxi stand, so you won't have an issue knowing how much you're going to get charged, and so they don't take advantage of you, because I know today's day and age, taxis can be sketchy. So the Las Vegas taxis are plentiful. They're everywhere, especially if you're staying on the Strip. There's probably going to be a taxi waiting for you within your hotel or nearby that you can flag down in 2 seconds flat. All right, so for accommodations. In Vegas, in the early spring, you're gonna find that accommodations are still gonna be kind of spotty on the weekend. What I mean by that is I do sales as my profession, and I like to negotiate up front for upgrades, or sometimes I even get them for free. Again, I'm a Marriott guy, so actually I don't know if I mentioned that, but yeah, I'm a Bonvoy Marriott guy. And so I love accruing points because a lot of the points that I accrue that you'll see on this channel pay for my future stays. And so anytime I have a chance to stay at a Marriott, I'll do it. But this was a trip for my wife, Sloan. And she, for her birthday, wanted to choose either the Wynn or the Encore because she is in love with that hotel. So we stayed at the Encore. It was about $400 a night for our accommodation. And when I went to the front desk, I told the guy, hey, let's strike a deal. And immediately he lit up in a good way. Thankfully, sometimes people get a little bit nervous about doing that from the opposing side. But I digress. We ended up trying to take a look at a villa in the Tower Suites, which is the Encore's flagship rooms and accommodations. And so we were staying in a regular king. When it was all was said and done, to make the math work, it was going to be about $1,800 a night for the early spring. Now, if we were to fast forward to summer, that accommodation price would have skyrocketed at least double to triple the price. It's not uncommon also to see those rooms go for about, I would say, 200 to 400 during the week, which is insane to think about because the markup in Vegas is real. It's just like Miami. New York doesn't really move in that sort of fashion. But more of the flashy, go have fun type places will take advantage of inventory. And so have that in mind. For early spring, you're more likely to cut a deal, especially if it's during the week. But I wouldn't do that by calling ahead of time. I wouldn't do that by emailing concierge. I would do that by showing up in person and negotiating that way. You might find yourself in a really good situation. Now let's talk about the room itself. We did end up getting accommodated to a corner king, which was really cool because the guy just had such a good time bantering with us about just the negotiation of it. I don't want to sound like I'm way too cheap about it. I just like a good deal. Who doesn't, right? So we get to the corner king. It's beautiful. We have a beautiful view of the Sphere. The room is very clean. The hotel itself is very clean for being in a casino. With casinos, you run into the risk of having the smoke smell in your room, even if it's a non-smoking room, just because of the fact that you're allowed to smoke if you haven't been to Las Vegas in the casinos. And so if you think about that, now you're having a lot of that nasty foul smell air of smoke, which we don't really get that much now that a lot of people have moved away from smoking completely or have turned to vaping. Even that's considered smoking, but the smell itself is going to sometimes be in your face. But in the Encore, we found that there wasn't that type of smell in our room. And also, what's really cool is they've integrated Amazon Alexa into the entire room space. And what's even cooler than that is that they actually have a tablet where you can check out, you can get in-room dining, you can close your drapes, open your drapes. There's a whole plethora of electronic options, so to speak, that are very up to date. And we found it to be really lovely. I mean, the service there too was phenomenal. And so for the price of $400 a night, in total we spent about $1,400. And to me, it was worth it to stay at the Encore in a shoe, staying at maybe a Marriott property like the Cosmopolitan. And so with that being said, the hotel accommodations for the springtime at the Encore, I think, were definitely worth it. Guys, if you hadn't had a chance to take a look at my page, this is a moment where I would really appreciate you liking and subscribing. This is my first video that I've put together, and I've put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into this channel. I hope you guys get a lot of value out of it. Thanks, and we'll see you on the next chapter right here. So let's talk about the Wynn and the Encore just a little bit more as it relates to their pool and as it relates to their bars. As you work your way around the casino, it's meant to take you through. If you haven't been to Las Vegas yet, you will find that as soon as you check into the hotel and you're meandering around the hotel property, it's huge. A lot of these properties are ginormous, and so they're designed to lure you into the gambling. The house makes the money, and so they put you through a whole circle of different games that you can play. But along the way, there's bars, like the main hotel lobby bar was really classy. I really enjoyed that. It's right next to check-in at the Encore. And then adjacent to that, to the left side, you have the pool. The pool area is beautiful. It's got a luscious garden, which I'll put up a picture right here. And then there's also a beautiful, beautiful pool that surrounds the entire property that you can see to the left side. So the pool is heated, and so that means that you can use it during the early spring. However, keep in mind, at their discretion, they can stop you from going into the pool and shutting it down if it's too windy or the weather is inclement. So that, chalk it up to what you want to say it is. But in my eyes, it's worth staying in the spring because you'll still have a heated pool, more likely than not. And it's just a really good rate for what it is. So that's just wrapping up the pool. Last thing about the pool. If you stay at the Wynn and then you go to the Encore pool, they won't let you in. If you're at the Encore, you can use the Wynn's pool and the Encore's pool. So that's just a side note for you to remember. All right, some of the things that we did. We went to the Cosmopolitan to check out the chandelier bar. I can't for the life of me remember or have even taken a picture, I wish I did, of the drink, the specialty drink that we got. But the bartender does a little jingle, song, and dance, and then puts his special fruit. I kid you not, he literally did a jingle in front of us, and I forgot it. I should have filmed it. I really should have for this. But he puts a special, almost like a miniature baby dragon fruit is almost the best way to describe it. And he tells you through his jingle to basically bite on it, wait a little bit, take a sip, wait a little bit again, and then sip again. And as you do that, the flavor profile of your tongue changes from sweet to sour. My tongue is salivating right now thinking about it. Back to sweet. And it's really cool, like the experience itself. I will let you know that the price though for those drinks was astronomical. For 4 of those drinks, it came out to about $120, $120. So keep that in mind. If you do go to the chandelier bar, ask for the specialty drink. They'll know what you're talking about. And enjoy, and let me know in the comments what you guys think about it if you've had it before. It's a really wonky and cool experience. The next place we went to was Aldean's Bar. I am a big Nashville guy. I love going to Nashville. I think the energy of the people that live there is phenomenal. And I'll talk about that more in some future videos. But also the tourists that go there, everybody's having a good time in their cowboy hats, their boots. Alan Dean's is very reminiscent of the Nashville bar, but if you're going there looking for the exact replica, you might be a little disappointed. And the reason I say that is because it's not Nashville, right? It's Vegas. You still have the country singers and the iconic, rooftop, so to speak, that you'll get. I say so to speak because the one in Nashville opens up and it's ginormous. And you get spectacular views of Broadway. The one here in Vegas, I would say you're more likely to get kind of half of that experience because it's walled off and then you have to use a door to get outside. You do see the boardwalk of Vegas, but it's nowhere near as captivating as the one in Nashville. However, the energy there was great, and you'll find sort of a similar crowd that enjoys country music, of course, because it's Al Dean's, but we enjoyed that. On to the next thing that we did. We took the breezeway. We walked a little bit past Caesars and got into that breezeway area, and I thought the views were phenomenal. If you haven't had a chance to go through there, and if this is your first time going to Vegas, that breezeway, bring a camera with you, or pull out your iPhone, because you will see some really awesome 180-degree views as you curve around back down to the boardwalk through the breezeway of Caesars. And so I wish I brought my high-profile camera so I could show you guys the views, but I was just having such a good moment with my friends that I totally forgot to take pictures. This is a good reminder of how novice I am at this whole thing, but trying to paint the perfect picture for you guys. The other thing that we really enjoyed doing was we went to Gordon Ramsay's, and his pub, it was amazing. Like the setup, it was really cool, but the best thing on the menu, as a lot of you know who like to cook, is his French onion. And that thing had so much flavor in it from the beef broth, because Gordon loves to use very fresh, very thorough and fine ingredients in his food. And that beef broth was definitely made from scratch. I highly recommend you guys go try that out. All right, on to the insane parts of the trip. By insane, I mean like this was the crazier parts of what we were doing. And so it was really expensive when we went to dinner. I just want to highlight that for you guys. Like in the spring versus the summer, the prices at the restaurants are just what they are, right? Like you cannot get away from how expensive Vegas is. And so plan accordingly, budget accordingly. The last thing you want to do is be a part of your group and then be that person who fakes going to sleep because you can't afford the trip, right? So think about that before you go to the trip. And we actually had that happen to us in our group, so that's why I'm putting that out there. Think about like how much you're gonna ballpark spend, and then get in accordance with your group and say, hey, like this is my budget for the trip. I'm not planning on going over. Because the last thing you want to do is be that guy at the ATM, pulling out more cash to gamble, pulling out more funding, maxing out your credit card, right? Like all this stuff is avoidable if you just plan a little bit ahead of time. But so, my budget for this trip, I'll just go ahead and put it out there, was around 5 to 7K. And I wanted to make Sloane's birthday like really spectacular, really special. And we're a dink couple, dual income, no kids, so we could have fun a little bit. But that's what I aimed for. And I'll tell you guys at the end of the video how much I actually ended up spending. And so we went to Papi Steak. If you guys don't know about this place, it's phenomenal. It is so much fun. When you walk through, it feels like a nightclub. I didn't know what to expect, honestly, like when I went in. And it was just loud, fun club music with people who were opulent and really, I'll put it out there, they really like to party and show off a little bit. That's kind of like the whole theme behind it. When we went to the table, someone brought out like this cart, and I'll put a picture up here, with a live crab, king crab, and 2 tomahawk steaks. The total cart was about $5 grand. I'm not gonna say never. For this trip, I did not opt for that. Like that was insane. They stop it, like basically they stop the music, like it's a club, and like you're getting bottle service, but it's your overpriced item that they're bringing to the table. and then they play a song with it, and all the attention's on you. You get the sparklers, you get the bottle service girls, the whole nine. But when we went, we had a group of about 6 of us. We ended up spending about, I would say, roughly 500 to 600, including tip, for each couple. And so for us, I thought it was really worth it. I had an amazing ribeye steak that was 48-day aged, I believe, and it came out to about $200 and change. And so I had some drinks with it too, and appetizers and sides. It was pretty good. But I would highly recommend you guys go check that out, spring or summer. It was awesome. So the next part of our trip, Marquee. Marquee was great. The day pool party, I think, is the whole reason, if you're not gambling, to visit Vegas in the early spring. We had a phenomenal promoter, Lewis. Shout out to you, my man. You took really good care of our group. They're part of the Tao Group. If you guys don't know about Tao Group, they are one of the premier nightclub groups out in Vegas, and they throw a phenomenal party as well on Thursday nights at Tao nightclub. I personally recommend the Marquee for the daytime party because they cover it and it stays warm. So it traps in all of the sun and the heat, and not in a bad way. I thought it was going to be humid. I thought it was going to be a little bit kind of like stuffy, but they worked it out in a way where it takes in all the sunlight, even if it's like windy outside, and it keeps all the moisture out, and you're just hot. So it feels like summertime, even if it was like 60 to 70 degrees. I would recommend the way to go about getting bottle service if you're going to go there is take a look online before, so you come up to the booth intelligibly and ask for Lewis and say, hey, I really want a good view. Based on the availability for this date, I see this cabana, or they even had like hot tubs on the side with a cover, which personally, I probably would have opted for that instead of the cabana. But the cabana view that we got was insane. Like the daybed view was crazy. And I'll show you guys a clip here. We saw Martin Garrix, and that view that we had one table in front of us. Lewis did a really good job of hooking us up for that. And so, yeah, I just highly recommend taking a look at that if you're going in early spring, because it really did make our trip. In total, that section ran us about, I would say, $3,800 with the service fee and taxes. Without the service fee and taxes, the entire section was $2,500. So that gives you an idea of what to budget if you guys are looking at getting a section. All right, all in all, for the total trip, we spent about $7K, and that was with about $1,000 in gambling money, which I lost, basically. I had $7 in chips at the end of it, and I just left it in my room out of shame. The other parts of it was the dinners. Oh man, how can I forget? Delilah and Mayfair Club. So before I wrap up here, Delilah was fantastic. That place, they don't allow you to take pictures inside, but it was a phenomenal dinner. They boast, let me put it this way, the most expensive but also the most inclusive wine list I have ever seen in my life. And they actually said in Vegas, maybe around the world, don't quote me on this, actually someone check me on this, they have literally an interchanging wine list from every week. They could just get a whole slew of new wines that are just amazing. Like they had 8 or 9 different Opus ones. I love that wine for occasions, the Cabernet Sauvignon. But they had this bottle that caught my eye just perusing through the list. It was a bottle of Louis XIII, which is cognac. I don't drink cognac, but it was $36,000. 36 grand for that thing. Wow. The amount of money that's floating around in Vegas is just mind blowing. I couldn't compute like how you can put that on a menu and say to someone like, hey, let's justify this for a dinner. Like, what? Anyway, hopefully one day I can get to that level of wealth. And even if I did, I couldn't imagine spending that amount. Delilah, amazing. By the way, salad. I'm not that big of a salad guy. Like, I'm healthy and I try to eat it. But their salad, holy smoke, it was amazing. You guys got to try their Caesar there. It really was that good. So if you're ordering a steak, order that Caesar salad with it, and it, out of this world. It was amazing. On to the next thing. So we go to the Last Supper, for us was Mayfair Club. That place was so cool. They had live performance, like burlesque style dancers, and on top of that, they've got like a live sax player in between the burlesque dancers dancing, like when they have intermission, and the saxophone player is like blaring sax music going around the corridor of the restaurant, like in a square. It's really cool. And the dancers actually have booths like in between the tables, and they actually have singers that come out and entertain you while you're eating. They try to interact with you. It's a beautiful experience. All in all, for the Delilah dinner, we spent about $1,000, and then for the Mayfair Club, we spent about $1,000. And I think it was a great time. It was really that fun. Now, wrapping up the video, we talked about all the things that we did for our trip. I would say that we did it in the middle of the road. And some of you guys are probably thinking, geez, 7K, like that's middle of the road? Yes. Actually, I would consider that, compared to what type of spending I've seen in the past from different people in all walks of life. 7K is actually at the low end in some cases, right? At the high end, some people will buy bottle service, and this is insane. Comment section, feel free to say what your stories were. But I've seen people go up into the 6 figures. And like, if you check the club's page, sometimes people will take receipts to just flex and flash. And they'll put up like $100,000 receipts, and it's insane. And you're like, what? Again, Vegas, if you could think about doing something, you can probably do it if you pay it. Like, it's that type of place. Like, anything is possible. It's a playground. But don't get carried away, right? That's, I think, the message of the story. And to close out, thank you guys, if you're still here with me. That was my experience in Vegas in early spring. My consensus, huge check mark, definitely go. I would definitely stay at the Cosmopolitan the next time, just because I felt the vibe there was a lot more chic. It was a little bit more luxurious, and it was probably about $150 more than the Encore. But definitely check it out in the early spring. You won't be disappointed. Again, my name is Sook. Please hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you guys soon for the next video. Thanks.